Start translation. Okay, now we're online. Hello, dear friends. Hello, dear beekeepers. Hello, dear zoologists and entomologists. I am Viktor Fursov. I'm a research entomologist, beekeeper, and teacher, and this is my channel. And today we have very great, really interesting opportunity to communicate with American writer and American beekeeper, Lady Cerelli from Northern Carolina, because I was talking with her sometimes before regarding Ukrainian beekeeping. And now we have opportunity to talk about Ukraine, about USA, maybe other countries, regarding beekeepers, regarding beekeeping, regarding honeybees, maybe about ecology, ethology and behavior of bees, some bees diseases, about problems in beekeeping worldwide, because the world now became very small. Now we are talking not only about Ukraine. We should think globally. So that's why I'm very pleased to introduce Lady Cerelli from USA as a very interesting person, because she asked me a lot of questions. She interviewed me a lot. So I typed just very long messages for her explaining what I'm doing, how I was involved in beekeeping in Ukraine, how I participated in international congresses. So that's why I'm waiting for her new questions, maybe during our discussions. And I can ask her a little bit about beekeeping and honeybees in USA. So Lady Cerelli, please introduce a little bit yourself, your experience in beekeeping, in writing and publishing your books, little bit about your beekeeping activities. How did you start it?
About 30 years ago, I attended a workshop on Rudolf Steiner's biodynamic beekeeping on a weekend. 10 years later, when I moved to North Carolina, that piece of document from that weekend was the only thing that survived. And about 5 years later, I found a flyer about beekeeping school. The only thing I ever won in my life was my first colony. I bought another one back in 2009, and I started out with 2 hives. That first year, I realized that the commercial beekeeping practices did not work with my philosophy. So I started into no treatment beekeeping. And the following year, there's something that I discovered this past year was that beekeeping, the buzzing of the bees, help cure the PTSD symptoms. It does not cure PTSD, but it will take care of the symptoms. I had been diagnosed by our Veterans Hospital here with 100% PTSD. The first year beekeeping season is what allowed me in 2010 to travel internationally. And I went to Italy as a slow food delegate for bees, and that was my international jump-off point. And I started traveling there for the next 10 years. 5 years of that was in the capacity of ambassador for the Center for Honeybee Research. I also wrote their newsletter, and I wrote the newsletter for my own bee healing website, which is no longer active. But for about 10 years, I worked on my website. I'm a no-treatment beekeeper. I've discovered and learned that honeybees are sentient beings. They have the 3 traits: compassion, intelligence, and right of death, though they're not very ceremonial in getting rid of their drones. But the honeybees taught me what life is about. The honeybees have become my passion and my purpose. And I've worked with and I've discussed and have met with scientists. The world's foremost authority on Roundup is my best friend. 3 years after having met him, I did his PowerPoint, because the neonicotinoids on the GMO crops are what's causing colony collapse disorder. And Don and I put that together in 2012. CCD was first coined in 2006. I do a lot of research. I am called the backup lady on my writing, because whatever I write and whatever I tell you, I can back up with studies. I'm also a certified apitherapist. Beehive products can cure more than 500 modern diseases. Beehive products can do things that modern medicine cannot. So apitherapy is it's not legal in the United States, but it's not legal either. It's just not recognized. Although the United States, the FDA, our Federal Drug Administration, has approved of Manuka honey. Although Manuka honey has also been radiated with gamma rays before it's sold to the public. I will still use raw honey for any skin wounds that I have. And the bees have taught me my humanity, believe it or not. They taught me to be compassionate to man, because my being PTSD is from a very severe abuse that I will not share online. But I have found this year that the bee buzzing is what helped my symptoms. And that was why I was able to get out there in public. Otherwise, people with PTSD, they stay reclusive. So that's in short. And I wrote my book, Bee Perspective Beekeeping. I used geomagnetic lines to take care of varroa. I never treated. The bees taught me the lacto water formula that I put out there for free for everybody. A company got a hold of my formula, added a few more probiotics, and started selling it as a bee healthy supplement. But if you're near a farmer, a GMO farmer that sprays with glyphosate, the bees will bring it into the hive will change, the bacteria will change, and this stresses the bees out, so they develop European foul brood. My lacto water will kill the EFB within 10 minutes. And you just keep using it until you no longer smell the EFB. But you spray everything in the hive, including the bees. They will eat the lacto water, which is filled with lactobacillus, the probiotics. And I also feed it to them because they're not going to be harvesting when they're sick. And my bees, they had a party. They're healthy, they thrived. And I did a study putting them over geomagnetic lines. I never had varroa. And what varroa I did see, the bee was biting its legs off before it dropped the mite down to the bottom screen board. So that's it in a nutshell. I teach some beekeepers internationally if they ask proper questions. When they get squirrely, because I'm a white person from America, and I usually end up having to block them. But right now, writing my book, Being Around the World, that's BEEING, I thought I knew a great deal about bees. That book is telling me that I don't know anything. And working with other scientists, and I'm learning about stingless bees, which is impressive. And I did the interview with the director of Apimondia, and found out that he has his own little side business here in the United States. I also interviewed the author, The Mind of a Bee. I think he wrote The Mind of a Bee. It was a bee book. And he works with mason bees, or, solitary bees, because everybody else is working with the mellifera bee. So the bees still have secrets that we don't know about. They taught me how to listen to the wind. They taught me how to look at my environment, see what I could do about it to help them. The bees taught me that being the canary in the coal mine, we are harming our earth through chemicals and sides and mono-agriculture, that in the end, the bees will go. And Einstein said that 4 or 5 years after the bee dies, so does man. I don't believe that, but the honeybees are the only pollinator of the over 20,000 pollinators that we have that maintain the integrity of our food, because they do not cross-pollinate. They will stay with one species of food, go back to the hive, clean up, and then go back out and harvest more or pollinate. Without the honeybee, we will no longer have hybrids. Heirloom food. So if you look at an apple and it's kind of gnarly, it has a little dent, it was probably pollinated by a wasp. But if the apple is solid and whole, it was pollinated by a honeybee. So, and I feel that the honeybees, they're taking me into the world on an altered state on one of my inspections. And in that altered state, I listened to a music that I know was for 10 minutes. And I wasn't worried because I always recorded my inspections. And that night when I went to my computer to translate my inspection, I went to that hive and all I got was 2 minutes of nothing on my transcriber or my recorder. 2 minutes of nothing. No wing, no sound of bees, wind, nothing. And then I heard my voice continuing on it was I kept that recording for 6 months. So the honeybees is the most fascinating animal that I've ever met in my life. They saved my life. And that's why they are my purpose.
That sounds really great. Because in Ukraine, honeybees are considered as a sacred creatures, so which are recognized by the god. So that's why usually Ukrainian beekeepers were very careful removing frames, were using brush very carefully. We do not use usually just kind of equipment when honeybees crawling and flying around in a huge mass. We're very careful about each honeybee can be removed from one chamber to another chamber very carefully. So just to use veil, to use brush, and very carefully take care about them. And you said about apitherapy in Ukraine is also not considered publicly as an official medicine, but nevertheless it's quite often used, and especially regarding some honeybee products such as bee bread, bee pollen, propolis, just some other products like queen cells, royal jelly, some dead dry bodies, which are used as well, just during mixture with alcohol, for example. So, and also stinging, So using bee venom.
I used to sting for Lyme disease.
Oh yeah, yes.
Because Lyme disease has a lot of co-infections.
Yes.
And I've had success with it.
I have been reading about it in some public messages on the internet. So that's after treatment with honeybee venom, it was some progress in treatment of Lyme disease. That's right.
Yes, and I'm not surprised about the way you keep your bees, because before the war, Ukraine was recognized here as a country, as world's leader in organic farming. So it was that's why I asked you a lot of questions about the war how it was affecting the environment, the farming community, which will also affect the beekeeping community. But keeping the bees, that's exactly the way I kept mine. They were my children. They're my sisters. And you care for your sisters. You're gentle with them. And the bees, they remember. They remember you. And they remember someone who abused them. That's why they get stung a lot. And they can count to 3. They know their colors. They're intelligent.
They can recognize smell. They can recognize smell, and then they can recognize the picture of beekeeper.
Correct. They can. Even through your mask, they recognize the beekeeper. When I was in Senegal, Africa, I was teaching them how to, we were dealing with Africanized bees, and the one man, he was really mishandled his beehive, and the bees, they just went crazy. Everybody else started running. I took off my hood, and the bees left me, and everybody was shocked. And that's when I tried to tell them. They recognized the person who did them harm. They saw me with my hood. When I took my hood off, my appearance changed. And I was no longer the person I thought. So it was, yes. The bees are, I sometimes wish humans were as smart as the honeybees, especially in their compassion. So it's, because we can learn a lot from the honeybees in the way of community.
I'm very proud to listen your opinion about your passion regarding apitherapy and about passion to beekeepers to the honeybees. So because they're quite useful for not only for beekeepers but for whole earth in general.
Yes.
But actually, you told about how to say about ecologically safe bee production and beekeeping. That's a difficult question because in general, honeybees are working in an environment which can be polluted by different chemicals. Even if beekeepers, they do not use special chemicals for treatment against varroa diseases and other health problems inside beehive. All another pollutants will be around, just around plants, around agriculture. So that's why this pollution can be brought inside beehive accidentally with pollen, and it can be mixed inside bee bread. So that's to recognize it and to identify it, it's more difficult task, by the way, because we cannot control precisely what farmers are using. Do they use nicotinoids and other pesticides, or do they use some chemicals for seed germination? It's a problem because it needs some very careful chemical analysis in appropriate chemical laboratory. And not always beekeepers have opportunity to check what's going on inside the honey, inside their bee bread, regarding chemicals, regarding some possible remnants of nicotinoids. Of course, some big sellers, big traders, they're checking mostly antibiotics, which are not used anymore. Just for instance, in Ukraine, it's prohibited to use antibiotics, but other chemicals probably it's quite difficult to identify, or maybe they are not used in analysis procedure. And now some possibilities not only very clean, very healthy honey, but also some mixture of honeys, because big traders were mixing all honey together and selling it just in shop. Even can make a mixture, fake honey from buying it somewhere, just like a sugar liquid in Vietnam, in Cambodia, not selling. It's not from China. It's not from China. It's from Vietnam. From Vietnam, it's safe. It's very clean. Not at all. Who knows? Or we can buy it even in Ukraine and mix it again with Chinese honey. You say, honey is very good because it has some appropriate DNA substances regarding flowers, but half of this honey can be faked. So it's a great problem to recognize, to identify true honey and not true honey.
Well, I learned in Italy through the honey lab at, I think, the University of Entomology. They showed me that the reason that a lot of the honey, the fake honey, they take the pollen out of it because then you'll be able to recognize where it came from. Because the pollen is the fingerprint to the plant. No two pollens in the world or any plant species are the same. So in the United States, we test for pollen, but we also, the Eastern Apicultural Society, which is quite large here, they tested the beeswax and they found 252 different chemicals. And my question was, we know what the chemicals are, but have you tested what would happen with the combination of those chemicals? Because sometimes the chemicals alone won't do anything, but combining them will. So, and in all chemicals, that's why nothing went into the hive that the bees didn't take through the front door. I didn't treat with Thymol. I didn't treat with peppermint. I mean, I grew the plants. I let the bees put it through their nectar. No, because no matter what you take into the hive, it's going to change the bacteria of the hive. And that changes the personality of the colony. That's what I learned too. That's the reason why that I would never treat my bees the way the commercial beekeepers do. And you're right. If you don't know, my lacto water, if you know your garden, if your neighbor is spraying with Roundup, you either ask him to let you know so that you can cover up the colony, or if you know when he's spraying, you feed the bees the lacto water. And that's using the sugar feed with some honey. And you're keeping them healthy that way. So you're correct. You're correct. And we don't know what's out there, and especially in commercial farming. So it's sad. And I'm hoping my book brings attention to all of that.
You said also.
Anybody have any?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, go ahead.
You said also about that mostly you started beekeeping as a hobbyist beekeeper. So just from small amount of honeybees colonies, just to like to have enjoyment of hobby, and we can.
That's the reason why I went into beekeeping, you know. And when I told that to the person who sold me my equipment, he just laughed. And I got a hold of my mentor was a very old-time beekeeper. He'd been keeping bees for 30 years, and but everybody laughed at me. But in 3 years, I had 24 hives on 3 different apiaries, and doing my own study for the center and doing things out of curiosity, especially putting them over geolines. Geometric lines are lines that are 200 feet below the earth, 30,000 feet in the air. Migratory birds use these geolines. The land animals, they use these lines. Your ancestors used to walk these lines, and they could, you know, because I can still feel them. So I put my bees over them in the first year. Now, usually the larvae or the eggs are laid in a circle. Well, the eggs were laid in the front of the hive. The next year, the eggs were laid in the back of the hive. And the third year, the eggs were laid in the normal pattern. So it was fascinating to watch. But the bees over those lines thrived. They gave more honey because the geolines vibrate at the same energy hertz as the honeybee does. And the varroa do not like it because the varroa vibrates at 19. The honeybees and the geolines vibrate at about 250 hertz. The varroa don't stay around, but they don't go in. So it's and I've proven that. And people, I've got a couple of people, even one in Australia, that's using the geoline, and he's found the difference in them. So, and he was skeptical. So he put one hive off, and then he put another hive off, and so he's. But people are learning that the information I put out there is real. It can be researched because I provide the studies, and I'm very careful about what I provide in the way of studies. But but I really would like to have gone to Ukraine prior to the war. And because I know you folks are organic, I know how you folks treat your bees, and especially with the interview with the beekeeper that I did that you provided. And so it was, and I thank you for that, by the way, for both those interviews.
Thank you very much
my question,
for your interest and curiosity. Thank you for interest in Ukrainian beekeeping.
You're welcome.
As I mentioned in some of my sentences in describing Ukrainian beekeepers, so the founder of Ukrainian beekeepers was Petro Prokopovich, a famous Ukrainian. He just not published all these books himself. This is his followers in Ukraine. They published it 10 years ago because mostly of his old papers in 1812, 1840s, 200 years ago, were published in Russian language. So his Ukrainian followers, Ukrainian beekeepers, published all his books in these 3 volumes, 1, 2, and 3, in the Ukrainian language. Just made special translation of all these publications as just heritage of Ukrainian beekeeping from old generation to new generations. Maybe some, and actually Petro Porkovich discovered quite interesting features and behavior of honeybees, and he introduced movable frames to Ukrainian beekeepers. So like Dadant, Langstroth into American beekeeping technology as well. So that's why this name is written here in Ukrainian Petro Prokopovich. And this is Ukrainian hive, and this is first Ukrainian Petro Prokopovich beehive. You was talking also about, here some people are writing some messages, but some not all people understand what we are talking, because we are not English speaking. But some English speaking audience wrote that one person wrote, Yuroskoy, thank you for your summary to your PTSD and beekeeping journey.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
For some people, it can be very, very useful. We know.
Well, if the person has PTSD, I strongly advise that they go into beekeeping. It won't cure PTSD because there is no cure. We cannot cut out our memories, but it will help to cure, if not all, a great majority of the symptoms. And it will allow them to be more public, to have more better mental health, because that's what it affects, is the mental health. And so and I have a feeling that once the book gets out, because Hives for Heroes, when I explained that to him and sent him my article on honeybee herds for PTSD, they're starting up with a group of scientists to find out why the beekeeping is good for people with PTSD. His program, he said, was mainly for the mental health, for the suicidals. And I asked him, what was the success rate for suicidals? He says 100%. In 8 years and 8,000 people, they have not had a suicide. And that to me is remarkable. I mean, I don't know of any other organization that can say that. So it's, so I have a feeling I might be going into another avenue of beekeeping that I wasn't expecting. So and then maybe not, but I just accept it as it comes on a daily basis. So we were affected by Hurricane Helene, and we have not had a hurricane in 150 years. But it took something out of me. I couldn't write, I couldn't create, I couldn't do anything. And I was not the only one. We've lost cities, little small towns that will never come back. And a few of them they're repairing. And we had people, and that was back in the end of September. We had people back in the higher up in the mountains that still don't have electricity or water. So so the beekeeping in that area was affected. But it allowed me to connect with others regarding the beekeeping community, how I found the Hives for Heroes. So no matter how negative things happen to you, they will eventually lead you to something that's going to be positive. And I believe that firmly. The bees taught me that. So, and the two things that I can suggest for beekeeping, number one, you watch them. And number two, you listen to them. They will teach you. They will teach you about everything. And you watch where they get the nectar. And you will understand that the nectar that they get, the reason why the honey is healing, is that the nectar that they're getting from the certain plants, the plants have the abilities or the chemicals that's going to heal you. I'm also an herbalist, master herbalist to be exact. My certificates can line the wall, my certificates and degrees. And, no, it's listen to your bees and treat them as you would your children. And if you need to, go get your parenting book. Get a good mentor to help you. That's one thing that I'm finding that's really sad. Every parent with a child thinks they know what their child needs, whereas beekeepers are the same way. Doesn't matter what everybody is saying, doesn't matter how they're teaching, they know what they're doing, and they're doing it their way. So, and it's, sometimes I chuckle, and sometimes I just shake my head and walk away.
Yes,
But anyway,
in many cases, some beekeepers say that my honeybees are my children.
yes, they're my sisters.
Yes,
They're my sisters.
and actually
And,
keeping honeybees is not like keeping some small tiny pet at home, like tiny dog or cat.
No,
That's a more complicated way, because this is a huge colony, or just in Ukrainian we say this is a colony, a family of small sisters. So their behavior is very complicated. We learn from them, and they teach us.
you know, when I first started beekeeping, I began to not equate, but notice the difference between the beekeeping community and I mean the colony and humans. And I started making comparison. 2 years after I started beekeeping, the more I went out with humans, the more I liked my bees. So it was just, at least when I got stung, I wasn't surprised, right? But no, I miss the sound of bees, and I love the sound. They beat their wings to the key of C, which is my key, and which is actually it is for most humans. And it's also the key of C for the earth vibrates at. So it's they taught me that as well. Listen to your bees
And
and
actually,
watch them.
and actually, talking about bees, taking care about bees, it gives kind of a purpose of life, not only for veterans, which are just in a hard health situation, but for beekeepers as well. And for young generation, it's just a great purpose. Just we can be applied for their life forever. So because many young people, they do not understand what's going on around them, what's going on in a culture, in a politics, and everything around. So the purpose of life is essential for everyone. And if you said about buzzing of bees. Actually, regarding apitherapy, we have kind of special apitherapy technique with honeybees house, small apartment with several beehives inside. When people, just 1 or 2 persons, can lay inside this api house and just for relaxation, because honeybees will be buzzing, will be crowding inside their beehives, and some energy will be coming, some smell, some air can come from beehives. And if person is laying and relaxing, this is kind of sleeping apitherapy house, which is quite popular in Ukraine, in some beekeepers for sure. Some people even making kind of a business, building apitherapy houses and inviting people like tourists to their apiary. So to visit not only apiary beehives to buy honey, but to relax a little bit inside apitherapy house.
I had one. I designed one and built one on wheels, and I no longer have it. But a friend of mine, she experimented, and she put a hose and a mask on top of a beehive, and a man was diagnosed with a coin-sized tumor in his lungs. He spent 20 minutes 3 times a week breathing bee air, and in 2 months' time, that tumor was gone. So it's not just the noise, it's not just the air, including the larva or a dead bee body. Everything about the bee is healing. Everything. Except the frames, of course, but I mean, all the beehive products. It's healing. And I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome. When my mother was pregnant with me, she got under stress, changed my DNA while I was in her womb. And as an older person, I could not have children because it changed my hormones. And I'm just now taking drone larvae to change that around. And it seems to be working. So because we have our voice gets deep, we're muscular, we maintain our testosterone, we have a barrel body, and right now I'm 81 years old. And I was born with a heart murmur. I have PCOS because of my mother's womb, and diabetes from the PCOS. But yet all my numbers are physical numbers like triglycerides, cholesterol, all that are normal. Beekeepers last longer than most other people with these similar problems. I have actually, I'm an amazement in the medical field because I survived a 90-second VTAC episode, after which people usually die or they stay sick. My heart came back to normal. Took 18 months, but that's because of my heart murmur. So I can't say enough about beekeeping and apitherapy. Everything about them. And Victor, the bees still have more secrets to reveal. They're just taking their time.
That's right.
When we are ready, they will reveal.
That's right. Absolutely. You said a little bit about colony collapse disorder, which affected American beekeepers, commercial American beekeepers. But what's going on about it now in the present time?
Back in the 70s, Monsanto created they bought the rights to glyphosate, and they changed the chemical to glyphosate, and they put it in the Roundup for agriculture. Also in the GMO corn, or GMO crops, is the neonicotinoids. 3 chemicals affect the bees, 2 of them particularly. Imidacloprid affects the bees' laying abilities. That's how I got in touch with Dr. Don Huber. And the clothianidin affects the workers or the harvesters' memory. They remember how to go out, but they forget how to come back to the hive. And that's when, back about around 2000, they started noticing when the monocrops grew and more of the glyphosate was used, they started noticing the bees, the disappearing of the hives. It wasn't exactly like they were absconding or swarming. They were just not creating, or they're just slowly getting smaller. I went to Africa and I came back in 2012, and I found an email with an interview with Dr. McCullough and Dr. Don Huber. Dr. Huber is the emeritus professor at Purdue University. He's a plant pathologist. And he's also at one time worked with the United States intelligence on agriculture, on bioterrorism. Well, after my interview, when I read his interview, 30 minutes into it, something clicked. And I called him. Well, he didn't return my call for 3 days. I called him again. And I told him, I said, Dr. Huber, if you don't want to hear my voice on your phone for a very long time, you need to call me back and say you don't want to talk to me. Well, 2 hours later, he called me. I told him, I introduced myself. I'm an ambassador, and I'm a beekeeper, and this is my issue, and yada, yada. And he didn't say one word through my whole communication. About 10 to 15 minutes later, he says, may I call you back in 2 days? I said, sure. And when he hung up, I said, if that dude thinks he's going to get off that easily, well, 2 days later, to his credit, I said, hello. He said, it's glyphosate. And I said, and what is glyphosate? 3 years later, I did his PowerPoint to bee clubs. And he and I, in 2012, we correlated Monsanto to CCD. And I did. And when I put that newsletter out with the interview with him, farming community, beekeeping community, and the science community all were quiet. Save one farmer, commercial farmer. He says, you need to remove that because that's not true. Well, 3 years later, when I was doing some more research, I happened chance to come across a forum that showed that 3 months after my newsletter came out, discussions started. 50% were against glyphosate, 50% were for it. That interview came out 2012. 2013, scientists started doing studies. So I like to think it's because of that. And since then, well, Don is international. He works with a group of international scientists, farmers. He was in Ukraine with 8 farmers here about 3 or 4 months ago. And working with them on their field, yes. So, so I'm trying to get it from him. You know, I want to talk to somebody. I want to see what the war is doing with my bees. But you came on Facebook and introduced yourself. So I kind of appreciate that. I've got almost 5,000 friends, and I'm still looking, but my book is writing itself right now. But no, Don and I, we're the ones that connected CCD to Monsanto because of neonics. And well, I discovered too that the glyphosate affects the bacteria of the hive, so all the way around. You know, if bacteria is affected, they can't fix it. They leave. They abscond. So it's yes. And interviews, talking between like what we're doing now, lets me know that in some way I am impacting the beekeeping field. I haven't in 2 fields thus far. So, and no one's giving me credit. I wanted to work with someone on the lactobacillus, on feeding it to the probiotics, and no scientist wanted to do it. And I thought, well, okay, I'll let it go. And then about 4 years later, a group of students from UCLA in California came up with their journal paper about how the bacteria is working with the bees, and they put it on Facebook. And my friends on Facebook says, "Oh, that's nothing. Lady showed us that 40 years ago." So I was pleased. But my information like that, I give out for free. I don't charge. I don't because for the sake of the bees, and for the sake of the bees, I'll give anything out there for free, whatever I discover. But I need to know that it's actually effective, and I don't give out false information. So yes.
But you said about your personal recipe of honeybees product probiotics. Is it based on pollen or bee bread or just royal jelly or just a mixture?
No, the bees gave me an image of what they needed. And I took that image and I took 1 capsule of probiotics from the store, and I got 8 strains, you know, no more than 50 billion. I think it's FTU or something or other, but 8 strains. And you put 1 capsule into a cup of tepid water, 2 tablespoons of that into 1 gallon feed. And then you add 1 tablespoon of vinegar, because when you put the vinegar with the sugar and the lactobacillus, within 3 hours, that whole sugar feed is filled with lactobacillus. You can see by the bubbles at the top. And that's what you feed your bees. But I got curious because then further research indicated that lactobacillus KCI is in every element of the earth, including the earth. And this is what glyphosate is killing. Roundup kills the lactobacillus. It kills the Clostridium botulinum in the soil. Okay, and so when you kill the lactobacillus, you allow the botulinum to come into the plant. That's where Salmonella, E. coli, and what's the other one? The third one. These are the bad bacteria coming up into our foods because of the Roundup. But when I gave it to the bees, I got curious. When I found out the LKCIs and everything, that's when I went to the 10th strain. And you thought that they were at a party. So, and it's very easy to make. But the formula you put in the refrigerator if you need to feed that, but you only keep it for a few days. And but it's very cheap to make, very cheap, and it's very, very effective for the bees, very potent, and very safe. And the bees, they're smart. If they don't need it, they don't take it. They won't take it. So, but that's my formula. And if I use honey, I like to put one pint, 1 cup of honey into a gallon of feed, and that's what helps to multiply the bacteria. And it helps to multiply the bacteria that it was not in the probiotic capsule that I had. So, but I do not add vinegar to that. The bees that will multiply by itself. So and the bees taught me that. And I don't care if people believe me or not. It doesn't matter. So it's, and the bees, they taught me how to listen to the wind, to help me when storms are coming. I was shocked one day. I was in my hive and the bees kept batting me. They even kept stinging me. What's the matter with you? So I got out of the hive. Cloudless day, not a cloud in the sky. 2 hours later, we had a thunderstorm. The bees knew that. They were telling me that. So if I'm in the hive and they keep bucking me, I get out of the hive. They're telling me something I don't know.
Right, right.
That's what I mean by you watch your bees and you listen to them.
That's right.
And sometimes there are private things going on the bees don't want you to know about. They don't want you a part of it. So it's listen to the bees, and they will take care of you.
Thank you very much for your interest in Ukrainian beekeeping and in global and international activities in beekeeping. So you visited different countries, so you improved some beekeeping techniques in different countries. What country did you surprise the more than others?
Well, actually, I've come across apitherapy people who keep their bees, and like one of them, she feeds them zeolite, and zeolite is a natural chemical that's healthy, and it keeps her bees healthy. Another one, and I'm learning about stingless bees. They don't sting, but their wax. It was fascinating to find that when they build their wax, they add the propolis in the wax. So the wax takes on the properties of the propolis. So when you use the wax for bandages and things, it's far superior to how we're using our beeswax. And it's also the honey absorbs properties from the propolis that's in the wax. And they don't make much of that, but it's which makes it priceless. But their honey is far more from a stingless bee is far more important than the honey from an Apis mellifera. The people in Africa, when I tried to, like one beekeeper, he was like you're talking about how gentle your Ukrainian bees are, your beekeepers. They're gentle. They move slowly. They don't make loud noises, which is what bees appreciate. So I was showing this one man in Africa on this huge standard concrete hive. The bees were going crazy. I finally just pushed him away. And I said, hold on. Told my son, I said, translate. And so I explained to them. And I found it fascinating in how I started at one end on top of the frame. This is like a top bar setup. The bees were over here. And I moved across the center. The bees moved over this way. By the time I got to this end, the bees were over here. But they didn't sting. They weren't. And I tried to explain to him. And he, yeah, I understand. We went to another hive, and he just forgot everything I showed him. But now that fascinated me about the Africanized bees. I mean, these words is the scutellatas, and I just I can share everything I've learned, and everybody I've talked to, everybody has shared something different in the way of apitherapy, in the way of beekeeping, in the way of geography, how the forestry bees, honeybees, have better honey, better quality honey than those in crops. And I've almost got all of my. I just need a few more interviews, especially from farmers. And I find it curious that I don't find very many farmers, but guidance will provide that. And but I'm also finding that a lot of these, like House for Heroes, They started out small, and now they're becoming global. I found out through the Spikenard farm fascinates me, and they're very spiritual beekeeping. I'm discovering a lot of people going into the spirituality, which tickles me. Okay, because that's where we actually understand or totally accept the bee, is through the spirituality. But but everybody's been different. I've learned something different from everyone, including you. I mean, you through your beekeeper taught me about your hive, how you've taken this, your founder took his frame, his beehive, and you changed it to adapt a little bit of the Langstroth beekeeping. And yet you would talk to people who have the round hive or the sun hive, yes, and they don't believe in the Langstroth. The only one I don't approve of, totally, is the flow hive.
Yes, yes.
I mean, to me, that's like, how do I feel if somebody would come and open up a door to my pantry from the back and empty it all out, okay? And me putting stuff in it. No, I'm totally against the flow hive. This whole operation, its whole purpose, everything. So it's just, nope. Don't even get me started.
Is it considered like a toy, not like a,
no,
or robbing a bees?
I think it's very disruptive. It's very, it invades their privacy. It steals from them without letting them know. Like I said, it's like if I were to walk into my pantry and it was full, and then one day I go in there and it's empty, and me not knowing how. And no, I don't buy it. I can't get into it. And I had someone try to talk to me about it, and I just put my hand up. I said, "Stop talking, or I will walk away." And she said, "You don't like it?" I said, "I don't like it." And that's all that needs to be said. So it's, no, I do not like the flow hive. I watched the videos of it, how it works, how they built it, and the why. They think it's expedient, efficient. No. To me, it's very invasive. It's very unnatural. And I just think it's just a lower end of stealing from bees. I really do. And I think it's harmful to the bees. And if I try to go to teach someone and they want to go into beekeeping to treat the bees as a commodity, I would tell them to go find another teacher. Because you can't really make money from honey and honor the bees. You really can't. You can do it in other ways, but it's that's like exploiting your children. I can't do that. So if that makes me wimpy or weak, so be it.
Actually, we are thinking, when we are talking about commercial beekeeping in the United States, we are thinking about large-scale commercial beekeeping, just with purpose for pollination activity, with payment for pollination. But how is often just small-scale beekeeping activity, like 10, 20, 50 beehives for just one owner? Is it?
We call those backyard beekeepers. Anything commercial is 100 or more. And I don't even mind that. A man in Italy told me he had 400 hives. He doesn't have time to go and inspect them. He lifts the lid up. If the honey smells good, he closes the lid. The honey does not, but the lid doesn't, if it has a foul smell, he does an inspection. That to me is cool. And, but no, I've seen images of pollinators. Their trailers are full of hives and they have accidents and they close highways off.
Yes.
And stop traffic and bees flying all over the place. That's why a pollinator, he may have 300 hives on the truck, but of the 300 boxes, maybe a third of them or a fourth of them will be colonies. So should he lose a beehive, then he's got a colony to start another one. And, or what they call nukes, nucleus. And I to me, I'd rather that they go and teach these people that they're going to pollinate, teach them beekeeping, or have them hire somebody. Not only would it be cheaper, but we would keep our bees. And another thing that I really have my back up against is queen rearers. A hive has 7, they'll have 7 queens. And the first one out kills all the rest of them. That's the strongest queen. The beekeeper raising the queens does not know which one's the strongest. He could be selling a queen that's not very good, and the bees know this, they'll kill her. If she's not a good layer, the workers will kill the bee and ball her up. So I don't buy that either. That to me is not natural beekeeping. That's just trying to make money. No, I took a queen rearing class. I know how to do it. I don't. I just don't. And it's like it's like a husband farming his wife out to make more children. You know what I'm saying? So when their children are done, they can adopt them out. So I can't go there. And but I don't like queen rearing. Not like the way they do it. EAS. I took a conference there, and once you take their test, which is in 5 parts, you're equivalent to a bee inspector anywhere in the United States. That's a highly potent. At the time I was working towards getting my certificates, like I said, that mine can line the wall. And that was the worst weekend of my life. And to top it off of which, I had my PowerPoint on my flash drive. When I pulled it up on the screen, I couldn't find it. Neither could they. So I had to give my visually rather than through the PowerPoint. And I did pass it, and they were impressed. But when I got home and I looked on the PowerPoint, it was there. It just disappeared at the conference. So, and one of the guys there, one of the instructors, the one that was heading up this whole thing on the testing, did not respect people who were no treatment beekeepers. And he pointed me out. One other person there told me, my name was recognizable, and he says, "Why are you here?" So, and the reason I'm PTSD is I had a flashback of a 40-year suppressed memory, and I had a few more after that. Back in 2003, when I took that test in that bee yard, I think it was 2013, I had another flashback, and that rattled me badly. And so after all that, I just deliberately failed my written test, and I knew I wasn't going to pass it. And I was through getting certificates. It was the last time I attempted for certificates. You know what you know, and the paper's not going to show it.
Right.
So, anyway, yes, and I'm just in my own little corner of my world up in my mountains doing my thing. And I never realized how out there my name really is. Because right now I'm teaching globally. I connect globally. And in fact, I just got a thing through WhatsApp from Bahrain this morning asking me how I'm doing. And I'm teaching beekeepers in Africa. So it's, and I have a feeling I'll be mentoring through Hives for Heroes. So I would teach anybody who is serious about beekeeping if it's no treatment. If they want to treat their bees or go commercial, I will gently suggest they seek someone else. So
your story about glyphosate was very impressive. It's really quite visible that some chemical companies just in public media just made a huge pressure on opinion of public and an opinion of beekeepers and other people just to stop discussion about glyphosate and other chemicals.
Oh, Don wrote a letter to EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and somehow a journalist got a hold of it and put it online. And that's when his started. That's because he retired. And that's when he started. And that's when he got in, started doing speeches around the world about farming and glyphosate because of that. And then when he and I connected, he started referring people to me, especially other farmers that are with their bees dying. But no, it's I'm humbled. I'm impressed that all these scientists would even talk to me. You know. So what you got in your hand there?
I want to show you and my friends these frames, which I described in my interview about Ukrainian beekeepers and these beekeeping activities. So I explained you about Ukrainian beekeeper Vasil Priyatelenko, who invented special frames. And the most important part of this frame is using just this metallic top bar, which is quite unusual. So this was a kind of his personal invention for decade. Actually, he used it already more than 10 years. So I keep it here just for introduction. These two different frames, one is quadrate and one is narrow deep frame, which I can usually this type of frame is considered Ukrainian type of frame because this style of Ukrainian frame is used usually better for overwintering of honeybee colony, because honeybees will be moving slowly from down up and feeding on honey just slowly and will not dismiss the honey somewhere, because if this type should just not deep used, sometimes the club of honeybees can be lost in winter time, but we use this Ukrainian style and it's quite much better for overwintering. And here
that's the honeycomb frame.
there are some.
That's the frame.
No, this is just a sample. This one is used for brood. This is in a brood chamber. This is for brood chamber.
And they built from the bottom up?
Yes, we build it from down to up. And
Wow.
this one is used also for on the top chamber, on the third chamber on the top. And this one also here will be just a foundation for sure. I have a foundation with here some wires, some small wires. And it's used why I said about the shape of N-shaped metal top bar. And usually honeybees were covered with wax, so no condensation here will be damaging, and also foundation used put inside this metal top bar. So it's very well united. So foundation is united with wire, united with top bar, and it's this style of quadrate frames used for collecting honey on the top chamber.
I did not understand the end frame for the top bar because we all use wood until you explained that when they wax it, they propylize it.
Yes.
And when the beehive condensation happens, the propolis releases the chemical that keeps the bees healthy. Am I correct?
Yes, and also metal top bar is making stronger the frame. So the stronger the frame, so you can disconnect them, for example, easier like that. You can disconnect.
Right.
You can disconnect them easier, and usually this is quite narrow top bar. So that's why if it can be very wide one and wooden, so connection will be much bigger. And here for these frames, there is no big space between them, so that just attached. In conventional hive, all frames were disconnected like this. Distance between them usually in conventional hive about 20 millimeters, just 2 centimeters, like that. So usually honeybees, they need to move from one chamber to another chamber, but when they're connected, we use here like a united honeybee colony nest. So this is, it provides unity and strength for all these frames together.
Now, the fact that they lay their brood from the bottom up is different from our bees, because ours go sunwise, circle. They start in the center from the length drop frames back and forth. I'm intrigued that your bees start from the bottom up.
No, not precisely. We're making from the bottom the honey. We will start to make honey from here, from the bottom going to up, not from the up going down. We're making honey here. But for brood, we're making in a circle too. We're making a circle here too. So usually, if this is will be brood chamber, it can be completely covered with brood.
In the center.
But sometimes, if it is extra space, we can use also this for collecting honey. So sometimes, but we're putting here on this frame honey from down to up. Surprisingly, and this
from down to up.
And this,
yeah, now see?
And these 3 frames were used like that, in crosswise positioning. Here, this is a down part, here the upper part, middle part, and then again on the top, used like that. So this is complete 3 chambers beehive, all combined together. So it can be used like united honeybee nest, so they can move easily from one place to another place without any disconnection. So we're not disturbed by this distance between chambers. So it's considered to be like a natural nest.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Where do they first start putting their honey? At the top?
We put
if you put a nucleus in that, or a new swarm in that box, where would they start building first?
To make a nucleus, we need to use one chamber with this type of frame. So we use, so this will be brood chamber. If swarm is small enough, it's good enough to use only just one chamber. If we have huge swarm, we can put it like that. So they start brood here and then continue brood down. From here.
And where do they store their honey?
And for honey we can use only the next one. We've cleaned only with foundation. Because down there will be frames. Down there will be frames with combs, so they will be filled with larvae. Here will be larvae, so they can be both with larvae. And honey will be only here on the top.
Okay, because here the bees, no matter how many stores we have, if we put a honey super on the top, that's strictly for honey. They know that.
Yes, strictly for honey.
But even down where the brood chambers are, they have their honeycombs at the top of the frame for stores to feed from.
Yes,
so I was wondering.
We can make here some piece of chamber with honey. Here some piece of comb will be with honey.
At the bottom?
On the bottom.
Wow.
So
that is different.
That's very different. But top chamber used just only for collecting honey. So we don't put here on the top brood.
So if they have just the middle of the brood frame, only that, they don't have the top frame, they will lay their brood and still put their honey at the bottom?
Yes.
To feed them?
Just to feed them inside here in the brood chamber.
I don't think that's in your description of your frame, of your hive.
In general, not in general, it's totally no separation. There is no honeyman plate here, no separation for queen. Sometimes queen can come down and can come up.
I'm going to go over your interview again, because I don't think that's explained that way clearly. So it's brood center, this is correct. Honey from the bottom.
Honey from the top. Ah, yes, you mean just the honey from the bottom on the frame.
And the brood
Yes, yes.
bottom, okay. Because here, honey is used as an insulator. In our frames, doesn't matter the box, the honey is on the lower bit at the sides and at the top. The male drones are at the bottom in the corners. The brood itself is in the center. So that's where ours do it. All of our bees, including the African bees, the scutellatas. But no, the way your bees do it, that's different. That's really different. So it has to be because of the construction of the hive itself, the way the frames are fitted in there.
And this small frame considered to be more useful because it's lighter, not so heavy, and it can be used just for smaller colonies as well. So not necessary to have a huge colony to complete the huge hive with more frames. So that's why, especially if there is a flower resources not very huge around. So we use.
I see a couple questions, Victor.
Yeah.
Lactobacillus with sugar water and vinegar.
Yeah, this we're talking.
Yes.
Your recipe.
And it's, yeah, and the other one I think might be leaving. I wish you a good talk.
Thank you, Lady Cerelli, for your interesting self-introduction, your interesting stories. So if you have some additional questions for me, just let's go.
I will do that. I will do that. So thank you kindly, Victor.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you for kind communication. Thank you for discussion. I was very pleased to communicate with you. See you next time
Thank you for the honor.
on Facebook, and we go out of stream.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good luck.
I can only ask if only some interesting bugs in Poland.
Thank you
What do you
very
mean by interesting bugs?
Do you want to show them?
I can share with them that if they put the hive over geo lines, he won't have the bugs. Because most insects, other insects, cannot vibrate at the same hertz the honeybees do. Okay, he can Google geo lines online. They were originally called ley lines, L-E-Y lines, but you douse for them like you would for water by using metal wire. And when you walk across the land, then concentrating on your feet, not on the wire, and the wires will move this way or this way.
Oh, right. Like this.
Yes. Okay. Oh, thanks for help. Yes.
Like two different lines. So they use like this.
Correct. And because thoughts have energy. That's the reason why you concentrate on your feet. If you concentrate on the wire, they're not going to do anything. And the geolines are anywhere between 4 inches to 4 feet wide. It can be anywhere, but just walk it, and it's easy. It's easy to do. Then you mark the spot where they did this. You mark the spot. That's where you put your hive.
The spot will be when they move together.
Yes. They will either move in this way or they'll move in that way. Mine always moved in this way. So, and when they moved in that way, that's where the geoline is.
This place will be good.
Right. So it's let's just make my fingers, okay? And you got them straight out. When you're walking, they're straight out. And when you come across the geoline, they will slowly come together.
All right.
Okay, because the wire will conduct electricity. And what the geolines are actually below the surface is contaminated water. And the contamination is what's making the strong hertz. They're putting it up. And so it's, and the lactobacillus, they were to contact me, I'll gladly send them the formula.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yes, I can be reached at on Facebook. It's Lady Spirit Moon Cerelli. And yes, and they can message me there.
I'll give you a link under the description of our discussion. So if some people can be
Okay.
interested, they can go straight to you just to ask questions you personally. Thank you for
Correct. Okay.
thank you for
Yeah, that'll
introduction.
work.
Thank you for introduction
work.
of your unique recipes, your unique experience, and thank you very much for our very kind discussion regarding beekeeping activities all around the world. I was really pleased to talk with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for honoring me, and you have a good day.
Have a good day too. Good luck. Okay, thank you very much for people who was joining us on YouTube and who was joining us on smartphone. I can show again for people who join us recently these frames from Beehive of Ukrainian beekeeper Vasily Priyatelenko. Here on a wide screen, it's quite easier to show it, little bit easier, because I have introduced Beehive of Vasily Priyatelenko in different presentations, but this beehive has 3 chambers. This is a middle chamber of this size, 265 millimeters, and quadrate chamber. Quadrate chamber is on the down part, crosswise positioning. This Vasily Priyatelenko beehive is 3 chamber beehive. Chamber number 1 down, chamber number 2 with brood frames, chamber number 3 with top frames, top chamber with honey. This is a honey chamber, and all together they're just crosswise positioning. This is unique positioning, giving opportunity to maintain just unique united colony, united frames, 8 in the chamber frame, 8 again, 8 frames on the top chamber. This quadrate frame with N-shaped top bar, you see. Then 8 frames in the brood chamber, this type of frame, which is called narrow deep frame or Ukrainian style frame. And on the down chamber, it's also again chamber with 8 frames. All together will be 8 frames plus 8 frames plus 8 frames. All together in united 3 chambers beehive of Ukrainian beekeeper Vasily Priyatelenko. If you want to know more about structure of this beehive and his variations, let's go to another my PowerPoint presentations and some visits to apiary Vasily Priyatelenko near Kyiv. We showed different beehives during visits to apiary, and we explained how it's working as well. Because I keep here one another style of frame, one throat, not one. This is Dadan frame. Sometimes it's possible to use this big frame for second shape of beehive with large frames for this comb after honey. So with some damages because I removed it several times. Again, this can be used in the 8 frames in the down part. Then, because it's wider, here will be standing 12 frames on the top. And again, on the top will be 8 frames, Dadan frames, like this. If there is a good flower yield, if it will be good honey harvest, here more than 2.5 kilos honey here, I guess, just in this Dadan frame. So again, as I say, beehive considered with 8 frames of wide, shallow frames, Dadan frames like this. This is number 1, then number 2, and again number 3 on the top. So it will be 3 chambers beehive without bee space between frames. This is a considerable, very important part of beehive because of metal shape, metal and type shape top bars. Here you see. Top bar is metal. I'm just trying to show it closely, carefully. Don't put on the computer. If you are interested to know more about this style of beehive, you're interested to know more about Ukrainian beekeepers, Ukrainian honeybees, Ukrainian beekeeping technology, write your questions under this video or in the chat or just in discussion line. And don't forget to subscribe, press like, write your comments, ask questions in my future streams and under the description of this video. Don't forget to visit my Patreon page, visit bottom subscribe for sure, or if you are from Ukraine or from another country, you can visit Patreon, or you can visit Monobank for sponsorship, or just the line sponsor on YouTube. This is useful feedback after conversation, after discussion on different topics on YouTube. Feedback and financial support, very funny, very useful. This is a stream. Thank you for people who was coming to us. Sorry that we didn't speak other languages, only English. Спасибо тем, кто был с нами. Дякуємо, що були з нами. Не забувайте підписка, лайк, кнопка спонсорства. До побачення, а также кнопка на Монобанку. Это обратная связь с нашими подписчиками. Заходите на наш канал. New stream is coming. The sooner, the better. I didn't have time for writing answers for Curious Koi. Thank you, Curious Koi, for coming to our discussion. Just I give a link to Facebook page of my interviewed person, Lady Cerelli, under this video, so you can ask her questions in the private messages as well. Thank you for curiosity. Thank you for support my channel. Don't forget, stand with Ukraine, support Ukraine, help Ukraine, and Ukraine forever. See you soon on my channel in new streams. The sooner, the better. Yeah, this frame is very nice. If you want to know more, I can make special stream with discussion or description of this beehive in a separate stream, step by step, because it needs very slow, careful explanation of everything, all details. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye. See you soon in new stream. Bye-bye.